Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's live webinar. I'm Navitar's Nick Donato. I'm going to be kicking things off here for what I anticipate to be an insightful presentation on digital marketing. And this presentation came about really in recognition of the fact that over the last 3 years or so, private fund managers have only just started embracing digital marketing as a deal sourcing strategy. But at the same time, what we're seeing is that many investment firms are still unsure how they should be fully leveraging things like their website, email campaigns, and SEO strategies. So our objective here is fairly simple. We want to outline how GPs can supplement traditional marketing methods like coffee and trade conferences with these newer strategies. And we'll also provide a little background on how these marketing tools use constantly advancing technology to give GPs the capacity to reach stakeholders in a broader and more efficient manner. One of those firms to really make use of these strategies is CapEx Partners. Very shortly, I will introduce you to Eric Starr, who has led the charge in introducing many of these strategies at CapEx. He will be joined by Lisa House, a third-party digital marketing expert who has helped Eric with the understanding and the implementation behind many of these newer strategies. Both presenters will take some time to field your questions at the end of the webinar. Just use that GoToWebinar widget on your screen there to submit your questions. And while I'm in housekeeping mode here, allow me to say that a recording of the webinar will be emailed after the presentation to all attendees. Allow me to also explain how Navitar fits into the picture. Navitar is the financial service industry's first connected growth platform. And by that, I mean we've centralized disparate workflows like CRM, deal sourcing, relationship management, and document storage under one shared system. The platform is built off of Salesforce, and it's tailored to the workflows of fund managers, placement agents, limited partners, and other actors in the financial services sector. To put it very simply in the context of today's webinar, what we've done is recognize that digital marketing has become a critical component of fund managers' deal sourcing strategies, and so we've built a platform that facilitates many of the strategies that you're going to be hearing about today. So Eric, to start things off here, can you tell us a little bit more about CapEx Partners, and then Lisa about Williamson?
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. CapEx Partners is a private debt fund. We provide debt capital to middle market and lower middle market businesses. Our core focus is equipment finance. Generally, there is a fixed asset component to our facilities that we provide. In most cases, the transactions in which we participate, there's a senior lender already in place. But the company is looking to grow, invest in their business, and their bank is comfortable in the current position. So we'll step in and provide either a term loan or a equipment lease for the company to finance the investment in their own business and generate growth for the company going forward. Our deal sizes, so the checks we write, are between $2 and $20 million. And for transactions that are larger than 20, we will syndicate with some partners that we've developed over the years that have an appetite for the types of deals that we originate. So as I mentioned, much of our focus is on a fixed asset component of transactions. We've been in business since 1999, operating out of our fourth fund, which is $225 million of capital.
Thanks. And Lisa?
Hi, I'm one of the partners of Williamson House. Our company is made up of brand and marketing professionals focused primarily on communication strategy, planning, and implementation. Our goal is really to help our clients create and implement integrated communication platforms and tools. These clients are really in many, many different areas, industries rather, across the country as well as internationally. Each one is definitely very unique in terms of their objectives, their focus, their marketing goals, but what's common to all of them is the need to develop relevant messaging, and by using a variety of tools, weaving this message into dialogue and engagement. Digital marketing, which we're talking about today, or digital communications, plays a huge role in today's communications and branding efforts. So I'm very happy to join today's conversation to talk more about it.
Thanks, Lisa. And so, Eric, I've given a very brief overview of how I see digital marketing. I mentioned that it's become more universally accepted in the private funds industry, but can you provide us some of the why?
Certainly. So why should you care about digital marketing? So first, let me give you a little perspective. I come to CapEx from more of a quantitative background, and been able to utilize some of that background into building an infrastructure that impacts all of the firm's stakeholders, while at the same time building our brand with the ultimate goal of generating deal flow. And we really, the way I see digital marketing really is almost a manufacturing process that has a positive impacts beyond just its goal. Digital marketing really requires that you think strategically about who you are, who you think you are, and who you want to be. And then communicating your message really crosses over from just your targeted marketing focus to really all of those stakeholders, whether they be investors, employees, vendors. It really crosses over. And why is that the case? Because the better you know yourself, the better you communicate what you do, how you do it, the tighter your relationships become with everybody. You can really think about that in terms of your employees, right? I mean, the better you explain what you're trying to accomplish with your employees, you generate a closer synergistic relationship with them. But that's true for all of your stakeholders, whether they be vendors or investors as well. So this whole process, this manufacturing process of manufacturing deal flow, really impacts more than just the goal of generating opportunities or filling the funnel, so to speak. It really helps focus your entire business. There's a commitment involved with digital marketing, and that is that it's not just we've decided who we are and we're going to tell people every once in a while, and then we're going to see how that plays out. You really have to commit to this as being part of your DNA. Digital marketing, it's really part of who you are and how you communicate everything to everybody all the time. And that's a way of driving the message home, and at the same time building your brand. And being thoughtful about that brand building and marketing ultimately is what's going to result in an increase in deal flow by increasing the number of opportunities that come to the top of that funnel. And this whole process creates really a virtuous cycle that is made up of improved communication, focused messaging, and ultimately increased deal flow. So why should you care about digital marketing? It just makes your messaging better. It improves your relationships with all of your stakeholders, and it ultimately creates more deal flow for you and your firm. Let me give you a little background on where we see where marketing has come from, where we see it is, for the most part, where it is today, and then focus more on what the future holds for digital marketing. So traditionally, you build your network of referral sources, whether they be other firms like your own or investment bankers or accountants and brokers, attorneys, etc. You do that by showing up at a conference or scheduled meetings at a city. You'd collect business cards, and then you'd move on to the next conference or to the next city. Those good business developers utilizing these meetings, these meetups, would have a really polished elevator pitch, and more importantly than that, they would actually follow up with the people that they met along the way. And if they were really good, they'd take those business cards and actually put them into their Excel, into their Outlook, or even into a CRM. And that's kind of how the industry grew for many, many years. over the last 10 years or so, some common techniques and technological tools were developed, including email, CRM, websites, where pretty much everybody now has these tools in place. And maybe not CRM, but everybody's got an email, everybody's got a website for sure. And every day we come into work, we find in our inboxes deal announcements from somebody telling you about some deal that they did. So this has really become fairly universal. And while these tools, like meetings and lunches and coffee meetups, are effective, these tools and strategies are effective as well. I would say the limitation about what I've spoken of so far is it's very outbound in nature. It means you have to get out there and go find those people or groups that are going to send deals your way. As we transition to what's really the cutting edge, that's really turning this on its head, not to ignore what we've done in the past, right? That's still a fundamental tenet of marketing, but to think about ways that can result in other people finding you as opposed to you going out and finding them. So generating this inbound interest in your firm or the products and services that you have to offer. And how is that done? It's done through an integrated marketing platform. And it's going to include things like SEO and advanced website functions, and that tie all into email campaigns that might be based on data purchases. All of these things are intertwined into your digital marketing effort that is both at the same time outbound in nature, but is generating inbound interest in what you do. So things have really come, I think it's much more sophisticated than it's been before. But this is, while this might be new for our industry, whether it be private equity, private credit, what have you, a lot of these tools have been being developed for other industries for quite some time, and have led to really the availability of tools to be implemented in our industry. So as we move on to the next slide, Caton, I'm gonna pass this off to Lisa at this point. But before I do that, let me just say this: while I've been involved in designing and implementing the digital marketing infrastructure at CapEx Partners, I don't believe myself to be an expert in marketing. Instead, what we've done is we've partnered with hired firms that do have that expertise. And one of those firms that's really central to our whole process is Lisa House, and we could talk more about what all those things that she does with us and on our behalf. But at this point, let's continue the conversation about digital marketing, how it leads to deal flow. And I think Lisa's got a couple things to say about content being key. So Lisa, why don't you take it from here?
Great, thanks, Eric. Yeah, content. Let's talk a little bit about content. Content marketing and content strategy are really the it buzzwords these days. You guys have probably all heard it. Most people, when they hear it, they think blog. And really, blogging is just one tactic that's part of a bigger content universe. Let's talk for a minute about what content really is. It can be defined as pretty much any media, whether it be articles, videos, podcasts, newsletters, email, PR, a blog, this webinar, really anything that your audience can consume in some way. Having a strategy for content is really the foundation to all digital marketing efforts. Once you have content, you can then decide what distribution strategy and platforms suit your organization best. So the first step in really developing a content strategy is to think about your customers and prospects. What kind of content could you create and distribute that would inform, entertain, and engage them in a meaningful way? It's really important to remember that content must be valuable and it must be relevant. So people who read your news or watch your videos, must really get something worthwhile out of it. They should feel like they've learned something or that the information in some way resonated with them. And really importantly, they should want to share the information. Sharing is what expands your reach, which increases your audience, which obviously increases the amount of people that know you or have heard of you. So that's really key. Your content distribution efforts should also be very consistent. Really effective content delivered over a consistent period of time is what makes you recognizable. Your look, your feel, your tone, your writing style, and of course the content of it, the substance, should speak with the same voice that helps your audience get to know you and grow familiar with your organization. Now, at the beginning I said that content is not just a blog. It's more than a blog, but certainly a blog has an important role and can have an important role. So let's talk about that on the next slide. I'm going to show you, this is really an example of CapX and how they use their blog. I think if you look at the, let me just start with the blog is really the core content holder for us. We call it a hub and spoke approach that we use to distributing information about the company. The blog is what contains, it's sort of the core that contains the articles, interviews, whatever we have for primary content, but it also contains news items that have to do with deals, what events people within the company are going to. It could even have new hire announcements, promotions, things like that. We use this content, like I mentioned, a real hub and spoke approach. We use this content and distribute it out through e-blasts, social media, PR, all sorts of digital marketing efforts. In this case that we're showing you here, the blog is actually contained under the primary navigation called Insights at the top. And Insights is actually broken down into a couple categories for news and events, as well as articles, which are primary articles. In this case, Jeff Pfeffer, the managing partner of CapX, was on a panel discussion. So when we knew that he was going to be part of this discussion, we promoted the fact that he was participating in it through the blog and social media. Then after the event happened, we posted a recap from Jeff of what was discussed in the major findings and also shared that. And you can see, one component of the blog that's really important is to have sharing links. So it's really easy for somebody to click on, the LinkedIn share or the Twitter share, and they can share easily whatever it is you just posted. So content marketing is really about creating and sharing information that's meaningful to your target audiences in places that they'll find you. And of course, one of the most important places that they'll find you, and probably the foundation of most people's digital efforts, is the website. You can switch to the next slide. So your website really should be a visual representation of you. It should look like your company. It should talk like your company. It should represent the same level of quality as your organization. It should have a personality that matches that of your organization and really just be you in a digital form. And of course, this applies to all your other digital and non-digital tools as well. In talking to people, we always say, think about how many times you've met somebody at an event or an occasion and you thought that this person would be a good fit for some need that you're looking for. Their firm sounds good, everything sounds good, and then you check out their website only to find some horrible site that's hard to navigate. You can't get through it. You can't find the information you're looking for. It's really no unique personality. And how does, your opinion of what they could do for your firm just change? So, it's really important that your website be that core persona of whatever your company is, and that you branch out from there and make sure that everything is consistent with that as your baseline. So let's talk about for a second the first step of what you might do to get there. One thing that we suggest is to do an audit of all of your communication platforms. Take out, what your website looks and feels like. What about any social media platforms that you use, like LinkedIn and Twitter? Those can all be customized. Your e-blasts, your videos, anything that you use that we just discussed earlier as content, are they consistent? And ask yourself a really simple question. If your website or any of these tools were a live, salesperson, what would you think of that person? Does your website and the tools match your organization's personality? The next thing on my list is to talk about today a little bit is SEO and SEO optimization. And as we all know, consumers, everyone turns to search engines for solutions to their problems. Sometimes your best opportunity to win a new customer is just to virtually show up when they Google it. Many of you have probably already established some sort of search engine optimization or SEO plan. You may also know that search engines frequently update the algorithms they use so that they can continually improve the results that you see when you do a search. But what you may not know is that in recent years, Google increasingly rewards quality and punishes low quality. So let's talk about what that means and how they reward. First and foremost, up-to-date content is rewarded. So publishing fresh articles, updating your existing content, all of those things will help you maintain a strong showing on search engine result pages. So if you don't do anything else, make frequent website updates. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to add a simple news feed to your site and then add to it every time a staff member is promoted. You add to staff, you do a deal, you head off to an event. Those things that you're doing all the time, add them to your site in some sort of news feed. We also mentioned that Google punishes low quality. And what we're really mostly talking about here is sites that they consider to be spammy or overly optimized. And what that means are typically things like keyword stuffing, which means, you know that people are searching for you by, a term in CapEx cases, for example, equipment finance. If we were to stuff the site with equipment finance on every page, 5 times a page, we would probably be banned from Google at that point because it's really a red flag. It adds something that adds no value to the text and is obvious over optimization, you will get shunned. So really the rule of thumb here is stick to writing your site and all your content for your reader first. And when you think of your reader first, your content will be both user-friendly and SEO-friendly. Another way to get mentioned organically is to be mentioned on other people's websites. So pitching stories to news media, including local business press, sending out news announcements, commenting on articles, so commenting on posts, things like that. And some simple things, but people tend to forget, which is making sure your organization's listed wherever you should be listed, association websites, resource websites, all of those add up to a better online presence and a better search presence. I want to switch now to another tool that many firms use, which is email marketing. Email has an important value for businesses in gaining ROI, particularly for lead generation and certainly client retention. I think the biggest mistake companies make is to focus their content of their emails on themselves without a real consideration of what the potential buyer is looking for. And just like we've talked earlier today, it's really about focusing on what your customer needs are, what your customer wants first, and then matching up what you have. So before you even start a campaign, think about why it's worth the prospect's time to connect with you. What business problems are they facing that you can solve? Keeping it buyer-centric and relationship-centric. And it may sound silly, but easiest thing is don't forget the call to action. I mean, we're talking about tracking results in a minute, and there's no way that you can do that if you forget the call to action. And it's amazing how many people send emails talking about what they can do and why it will benefit you, but then don't build in the next step. So as I just mentioned, one of the most important steps in building and sustaining an email campaign has to do with tracking performance. And Eric's going to step in now and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, why don't we go to the next slide? Great, thank you. ROI for GPs, the return on our investment in digital marketing is important to us. And we think about how to properly or fairly, let's say fairly, calculate ROI. And it's not something that, well, we're going to send out 100 emails, and if we get 2 deals closed, then we know it worked. That would be nice, but that's just generally not how it works, and it really flies in the face of the whole notion of brand building. So the way we think about digital marketing is more of a longer, with a longer term in sight, and that is, first we have to understand what our baseline is for deal flow. So in the absence of digital marketing efforts, how many deals do we see? What size are the deals? How many deals? What is the win rate on those deals? So we have to understand the baseline that we had before we began a program or an integrated digital marketing implementing a digital marketing platform. Then you have to think qualitatively, and that is your industry, whatever you're doing, more or less active than the baseline today? So if capital is readily available and there's lots of M&A activity and your business is directly impacted by increases in M&A activity, well, then you might expect to see your deal flow increase relative to your baseline in the absence of digital marketing. So you have to understand, and the same is true, if M&A activity is important and it's on the decline, you have to expect that your deal flow would decline in the absence of digital marketing. So understand your baseline. And then as you implement projects, you look and measure your deal flow at various points in time. Again, it's not something that you can just look at over the course of a week or even a month. When you engage in strategies, you need to really commit to those strategies for a minimum of 6 months. I think a fairer thing to do would be to go at it for about a year, and then continue while you're going through that process. Continue to measure, to see and see how your the trajectory of your deal flow is moving on an adjusted basis for industry dynamics. There are some inherent limits to measuring ROI. Deal increases in deal flow do not always translate into more closed deals, right? So think about that, right? We've seen a lot more deals, but none of them closed. Was it really worth it? Well, you know, there are so many nuances associated with what closes and what doesn't. I think it's fair to measure the amount of at-bats you get. I don't know if it's, at the end of the day, you want to have more closed deals, but you have to subscribe to the notion that the more deals you see, the likelihood is you will close more deals at the end of the day. So we measure our at-bats. We measure deal flow, not so much closed deals. And always remember that, you know, the return may not materialize for 12 months or more after implementing a program. I did receive an ROI calculator for marketing efforts from Axial, I don't know, a week or two ago, and I provided everybody on the webinar with the link to that. You can download that, you can play with it, you can see, it's an Excel spreadsheet, you can see how it's laid out and customize it to your own needs. One more comment on ROI, and that is measuring time as well. How much time are you investing? And as I mentioned, and I think it's been clear in Lisa's presentations, and that is she's the expert in marketing. Right? We are not trying to invent the wheel. We're not trying to be a marketing firm. We've engaged with Lisa and Williamson House to help us with this process. And Lisa mentioned about having that consistent voice throughout. Well, yes, that's hugely important from a branding perspective, but the way we look at it, it's also hugely important to us because it doesn't require a lot of our time. We've hired Lisa to really do most of the writing. So we'll come up with concepts, we'll do the first cut at writing, and then she'll take it from there and craft it in a way that is consistent with the voice of the firm. So we really rely on our third-party providers, our vendors, in helping us implement this integrated digital marketing approach. We also have our consultant who we work with on SEO and optimizing our website and driving and measuring opportunities as a result of organic searches on Google, etc. So again, we're not experts in SEO. We work with experts in SEO. We work with experts like Lisa in digital marketing, and that it does two things. One, it gives us a very effective product, and two, alleviates a lot of the otherwise required time that would fall on the shoulders of the partners at CapEx. If we can go to the next slide, what I wanted to do is show you all the different pieces that make up our digital marketing platform. And the takeaway here is, well, two things. One, this is not just a list of logos. While it is that, the size of the font also, this is a word cloud, so the size of the font indicates the importance of that product within our digital marketing platform. And I'll walk through some of these and hit on some of the most important and some of the lesser important, but might be very important to you. So at the center you see Avatar. That's our CRM. If it's not in Avatar, it didn't happen. Everything we do ultimately, it could either start from Avatar or end up in Avatar, but it is an essential component, being the storehouse for all of our marketing efforts and activities. So it's central to what we do. Williamson House is also very large piece of our puzzle. As we've made clear, she really touches everything that goes out into the internet. Everything that's digital goes through Lisa. Straight North is the firm that we use for SEO and for website optimization. So again, that's another name. If that's something that you want to focus on, feel free to reach out to Straight North. CapEx, not unlike many of you, also live in Excel and in Outlook, and it was important for us to be able to use the tools we're comfortable with, not having to change everything in order to implement our digital marketing techniques. So everything that goes through Outlook finds its way into Navatar. One of the ways in which we do that, or some of the pieces that we use to create that integration with Navatar, are things like link point and iHance. These are smaller font pieces of our puzzle. They are on the Force.com platform. Force.com is think of the iTunes store, the Apple, what iTunes is, or the Apple Store is to iOS. Force.com is for Salesforce. There are thousands of these applications available to users of Salesforce, and in our case, Navatar. LinkPoint connects Outlook with Navatar, so everything that goes through gets synced. iHance is fantastic. Every email I send out to a person, to an email address that Navatar doesn't recognize, it gets put into a separate little form, and then I go in there once a week or so. I pick out all the new people and create new contacts, and it all gets synced back to Outlook. A very useful technique, a tool for us. PitchBook, you know what that is. It syncs directly into Salesforce. Sales Genie is a platform that we buy email addresses for our going to direct companies. Axial, we're a member of the Axial platform as well. iContact is a product that we use that allows us to send out a lot more mass emails than the Salesforce platform allows you to do, which limits what you can do, whereas iContact allows you to send out a lot more. Twitter, LinkedIn, it's all integrated. So I gave you this because I wanted you, when you're done, to go back and maybe take a closer look at all of these products and see how you might be able to incorporate some of them into your workflow. These are what work for CapEx. The integration of all of these products limits the amount of effort that we have to put in, but at the same time gives us a quality product with respect to digital marketing. So I hope you find these names helpful, and to really take it to one more level with respect to Navatar and how it integrates. What I'd like to do is ask Keaton Kandakar, who's the COO of Navatar, to step in here and give us a little bit of an overview of how Navitar actually works within the context of a digital marketing platform.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. This is Ketan from Navitar. I'll spend the next maybe couple of minutes just to give you a quick overview and a walkthrough of the Navitar platform. So as Eric mentioned, all the tools that were there on the previous slide, you can kind of have them all work in conjunction to help you manage your digital marketing process. And this platform then helps you kind of create a structure, enable metrics, and have all your data points all in one place. Now, the Navitar platform helps in two kind of, if you classify into two big buckets. One is for your investors. So everything you do with your investors, whether you're raising a new fund, you want to do fundraising, you want to manage existing investors, you want to share secure documents through a data room, all of those functions are managed in this platform. And on the other side will be your deals. So all your digital marketing efforts, those should at some point lead to increase in deal flow. So you can measure your deal flow, you can manage your entire deal pipeline, you can track your sources if you are also sourcing with intermediaries. And I'll just give you a few quick points associated with those. So you'll have, for example, dashboards which help you with your pipeline of all the new deals. So you'll have business development dashboards that allow you to track what are all the deals that are coming in, which are the companies you should be reaching out to, how many kind of outreach programs have you had within the team. You'll have your sourcing dashboards, which will allow you to manage and track all your intermediaries. So you can keep tabs and develop scorecards on who are your most trusted intermediaries, who are bringing you the best deals, and in turn, who are the intermediaries that you should be reaching out to on a periodic basis. As well as obviously your deal flow, where you can track all the deals that are coming in, and then you can do year-over-year comparisons. So if you're running your marketing program and you want to assess kind of how things have changed, you can do a complete trend analysis and look at how the deal flow has changed in the last 6 months, in the last 12 months, and compare it to kind of the same time period a year back. And you can measure the quality of the deals. So it's not just the quantity, but you also want to focus on kind of getting the right deals which fit into kind of the strategies that you want to invest in. And then for every single deal, you'll have detailed profiles. You can kind of track all the information. You can use data from PitchBook to augment the research that you're doing here. You can develop kind of quick tear sheets like these that give you a quick synopsis of every company that you're looking at, and kind of gives you a structure of all the things that you're doing. So if you're meeting with companies, if you're kind of doing internal reviews, all this information is available to you with a click of a button. So again, the plan wasn't to go into do a deep dive, but just to give you a sense on the kinds of things that the platform will allow you to do. With that, I will turn it back. I think we'll be going into Q&A next. So,
yep.
Nick, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Ketan. So we've got just enough time for a few questions. They're trickling in. One of the first is about who ultimately takes ownership of the website. So we've been talking about creating a blog. We've been talking about having that holistic voice. Eric, how is it handled at your firm? Who takes ownership of the site?
So I would say every 2 weeks or so, we have a brief meeting where we talk about what is coming up that we need to promote, or what do we want to push out to the marketplace that we think is interesting or important. And on all of those calls, Lisa joins in the discussion, if not leads the discussion. And as I mentioned earlier, everything that goes out into digital, or print for that matter, goes through Lisa. She puts she puts the CapEx voice onto everything that goes out. So as I mentioned earlier, it's about, if you really want to drive ROI, spend as little time as you can to get the maximum results. So what we try to do is really leverage Lisa and her skill set as it relates not just to the website, but to our entire program.
We have a second question coming in about which of the marketing channels that we discussed today are right for your firm. Lisa, I guess this is one for you. If I could even rephrase the question, does social media ever make sense for a firm? How does a firm reach that determination?
Sure. Look, I think the simplest answer, first of all, of where you should be is you should be wherever your customers are. So it's not about what you as a individual in whatever role you're playing in your company likes to go. It's really about where your company, your potential customers are. So if that includes social media, then social media is where you should be, with one big disclaimer. Managing social media accounts is just hugely time consuming. So if you find that that's an avenue that you feel is appropriate for your company, I would suggest that you limit your outlets, focus on one or two, so that whatever platforms you choose, you manage them at a very high level.
One final question that arrived. How difficult has it been to convince your fellow partners of the value of digital marketing? Eric, this one for you. Was there debate about the value, debate about how to budget for these strategies?
So we talked about this at the outset when we were allocating resources, and the way we thought about it was if we could hire somebody, another business development person, and that's going to have a price tag associated with it. Or we can take that same amount of resources and invest it in our digital marketing platform. So that was a decision we made at the outset. So we don't get caught up in the is it worth it this week, but rather take a longer term view. And the same would be true if we were to hire a person, right? Did they close a deal in their first week, the first month, first quarter, first year, right? We're going to look at what our expectations are from that investment and then measure whether or not we're achieving our expectations. And the same is true for our investment in digital marketing. So we got out ahead of it at the beginning and said we think of this as yet another employee on in our company, and we're going to treat it in very similar fashion and allocate those resources. Now, that's just because that's how we think about it. Doesn't mean that's how you have to think about it. Or let me put it to you this way: it could be a high-priced employee or a lower-priced employee. It depends on you and your firm and how you expect it to play out over time. So that it wasn't really so much as convincing the partners as it was a commitment to this strategy as a viable avenue for generating opportunities for the firm and growing the brand.
So you will see on that final slide there a list of contacts you can reach out to for any follow-up questions, or in our case, a product demo of any of the solutions you've heard about today. As mentioned earlier, a recording of the webinar will be sent to all attendees. I want to thank Eric Starr from CapEx Partners and Lisa from Williamson House for joining us today. On behalf of Navitar Group, I'm Nick Donato, and enjoy the rest of your day.